know, when you direct theater, you have a whole lot of events that occur. Some of them probably are unmentionable. But I think overall, when you're here at Saddleback for a long time, there's this net that you weave of people that you stay in contact with. And I think of all memories that I have, that's one of my fondest, is that I still am in touch with many of my former students who have become friends or even colleagues. In fact, Beverly Arrowsmith, who is currently teaching as an associate faculty in fine arts theater right now, is directing my play, The Old Bird, just finished at the Camino Real Playhouse and is going to be produced up at the Bowers Museum in August. So it's those kinds of friendships that I think really have become my fondest memories.
The sad memories, I'll say, first of all, would be the people, the instructors and students that we've lost over the years. A lot of wonderful instructors that, as an example, Rich McCullough, who just passed away a few years ago. And that's really hard, I think, emotionally. And of course, the personal loss we all go through with families and friends. But the rock in my life has always been Saddleback, because I could come to work every day and face my students and go on. And our faculty that I work with became my family. The happy part is every day at work and, you know, doing what you love, working at a campus, which is, I think, one of the best in California. The happy memories or the fun times that we used to have, I think of after having meetings in PE back then, which was physical education. Now they call it kinesiology, but we used to always go down to the Rib Rack, which was a bar at the bottom of the hill, which I think now is a church, if I'm not mistaken, but that was fun and it was very social, and we were all very close back then. I think that the campus obviously was smaller, but we had a lot of gatherings. We had in-service meetings, and as soon as a meeting was over, we would go to have a picnic or down to the beach and have a lot of group gatherings, which was really nice. And we do that at Christmas time. I think now we still have the Saddleback party and do that. But that was fun to have the gatherings that we did back then. Everything was more personal. The other big fun memory I guess I have, besides all the people that I work with, was the Faculty Olympics, which we developed. Dwayne Kane and I started that back in the 80s. I'm not sure exactly what year. But what we did was we started with having a team from each division, and it was co-ed, so you could have any combination you wanted, including the administrators, which was always very fun for us to watch them put their shorts and t-shirts on. And we had 10 events, so we had basically 11 divisions, 10 different events, and we started like with a tennis return, we had basketball free throws, jump rope, an obstacle course on the track with the teams. But the most fun was the pool inner tube race, which obviously was at the pool, but all the team members had the inner tubes tied together and they had to go from one end of the pool to the other, and there was a lot of dunking and dirty play, but it was hilarious to watch, you know, people you work with and the administrators compete and then be so happy to win a little ribbon or a trophy at the end of the day.
I believe it was a 1971 graduation. We were all on the stage with the students coming, and we had a streaker come out of the audience and sprint by the stage and gone. And so I remember that one. Probably won't ever forget that one. Never did catch the guy. He was too fast. But a lot of students, as I look back, I think about. But my favorite story is a lady who lived next door to a friend of mine. And she was probably in her, mid-80s. And she had taken up painting. And so she was taking classes here at Saddleback. About that time, the state came in and said you can only take a class 4 times, and then you cannot take again. They were cutting back to state level. So I was at Irvine Valley one afternoon. This is probably 10 years after IVC had opened up, and I ran right into her about 5:30 in the evening. She had her little paint bucket with her, little kit, and I got home that night, said hello to her and talked to her for a few minutes. When I got home that night, she had called her friend had called my wife and said, I got caught. Bill saw me at IVC. What she'd done is she had dropped out of here because they couldn't take any more at Saddleback, went up to IVC and used her daughter's Social Security number so she could continue to take classes. And so she was afraid I was going to turn her in. So about 4 or 5 months later, I still have the painting. I looked out my office. This is when I was the vice chancellor, and she was standing there, and my secretary said she wanted to see me, and she came in and handed me this painting and said, "This is hush money." And it was a painting of my office from down below. And I still have it. In fact, it was in my office. I hang it usually wherever I move to for a length of time. So it's one of my favorite student stories. She, I think, was 86 at the time, and really a pretty accomplished painter for a woman that age. But she thought maybe if she gave me the film, I wouldn't turn her in, or the painting, she wouldn't turn me in.
Had another student who she had an assignment. She was supposed to write a report on graffiti as art. And she said, "I just can't do this. I cannot write that graffiti is art." And she said, "It's in the textbook. I know there are people that believe that graffiti is art." But she said, "I think it's just horrible. It costs the country a lot of money. I just won't write that. And yet I'm going to fail the course if I don't." So I got she and the faculty member together, and I said, "Is it possible that she could write on something else that you choose, but not that graffiti is art?" And they worked it out like that. It worked out fine. And the nice, interesting thing I got was I got a letter of appreciation from some national organization that is opposed to graffiti, and said that they felt that it was a good step forward for a college to do something like that.
But the early days at Saddleback College, beginning in 1975, I mean, were just unbelievable. They were so remarkable. The faculty and the staff were the finest, as they still are today. But the answer was always yes. Everything was growth, everything was new. And if you could find an opportunity that would enhance the life of students in the academic or in the continuing education arena, the answer was always yes. And so in those days, the college was one campus, and it would double in size every other year. So when everyone's growing and everyone's building and everyone can initiate the program or the project that's nearest to their academic field, politics are gone. And it's really an academic delight to be in such an environment. So I really feel privileged to have been a great part of that in the early days. All that said, the earlier days also came with temporary buildings, which unfortunately aren't much like these we're in today. But and I can remember the football team, which was the national championship football team under Kenny Swearingen's leadership coaching. The big old guy sat in my classroom, and all of a sudden one kid goes, and he fell right through the floor. And the buildings were all rotten and falling through, but those were good times. So we had fun things like that happened as growth goes, and you're teaching in every environment.
Obviously, over those years, the college was just started in '68. So, and in fact, I was on campus with my brother in '72 because that's when he started here. So I've almost seen the campus from the very beginning all the way up till now. And it's a very different place, obviously. It was very, very small, very rural. There was nothing. I mean, if you stood at the campus, all you saw were hills around here. There was nothing around this campus when it started out. And of course, it's very built up at this point. But the college has grown so much at that time too, but we're up to what, 25,000 students now, or in that range. And so everything had to move with that. There's a lot of bureaucracy now, and it's very structured and everything, whereas it was much looser in those days. It was very fun, and everybody just loved to be here so much and stayed. Most of those people stayed their entire careers working through Saddleback, as I have. Yeah.